Hi everybody, today is January 30th, 2015. Well, I wonder if they're going to think about pushing that doomsday clock another minute closer to midnight. Russia says nuclear arms to keep military edge over NATO and the United States. Russia pledged to push through modernization plan, armed forces to receive more than 50 nuclear missiles. Military chief says West using new forms of aggression. Russia's top general said on Friday a strong nuclear arsenal will ensure military superiority over the West as Moscow forges ahead with a multi-billion-dollar plan to modernize its forces by 2020. Russia, facing a likely recession because of the fall of oil prices and sanctions over Ukraine, must deal with some new forms of Western aggression, including economic confrontation, said Chief of Army Forces General, Staff General Valery Gerasimov. I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But despite the deep economic woes, he said the Russian military would receive more than 50 new ICBM intercontinental nuclear missiles this year. Support for our strategic nuclear forces to ensure their high military capability combined with growth of the military potential of the general forces will assure that the United States and NATO do not gain military superiority over our country, said Gerasimov. Tensions between Russia and the West have risen over the conflict in eastern Ukraine, where the United States and Europe says Moscow is fueling an insurgency by sending in troops and weapons. Moscow denies this. Russia has criticized NATO's expansion in Eastern Europe, and President Vladimir Putin has accused the Ukrainian army, which is fighting pro-Russian separate in Eastern Ukraine, of being puppets of NATO with a policy of containing Russia. Russian warplanes have increasingly been spotted over Europe in recent months. Britain summoned the Russian ambassador on Thursday to complain about two Russian long-range bombers that flew over the English Channel, forcing British authorities to reroute civil aircraft. Russia's promises to push through by 2020 a more than 20 trillion ruble. Now, is that at today's rate or was that at last week's rate? 286.62 billion US dollars. Military modernization plan conceived by Putin. And military expenditures will remain unchanged even in the face of a growing economic crisis that has cut the budgets of other ministries. The modernization project aims to revamp Russia's weapon systems to assure that 70 to 100% of the armed forces' weapons and equipment have been modernized by the end of the decade. A plan confirmed by Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. We plan to fulfill the government's armament program and reach by 2020 the intended quantities of modern weapon systems, he said at a meeting. Russia keeps its state nuclear capabilities shrouded in secrecy, but its military has approximately 8,500 warheads in total, including those non-deployed. Some 1,000 more than the United States possesses, according to a study last year by the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. I mean, how many times are you going to blow up the world? That is, it's ridiculous to have that many nuclear warheads. Speaking against the backdrop of rising prices brought in on by part by a weaker ruble, Gerasimov said Russia had to deal with new kinds of Western aggression. Western countries are actively using new forms of aggression, combining military as well as non-military means. Political, economic, and information methods are also being used. Interfax news agency cited him as saying, so these 50 new nuclear missiles, are they from the stockpile they already have, or are these being added to it? Boy, I'm glad I don't live near any major city. I probably only would have to worry about being downwind from the fallout.